Mic check. Ha ha ha. Seems functional, boys. All right. So I'm just going to kind of chill out here for a minute, let everybody come through. Got a couple of questions that we need to go over here. So one of them slips in my mind. A young man came in and asked me about how to be a biologist and how that works. And let's see what else I got. Can't remember the other comment now. I should have written this stuff down. I'm sure he'll be through in a minute. And I want to touch on, I guess the title on this one, say fish handling. There's a video circulating the internet of a guy who caught a 16-pound bass and handled it horribly. Just the physical handling of the fish was atrocious. Welcome aboard, my friend. Thanks for joining. Just talking about a video of a 16-pounder that was, it's probably dead. It's probably going to die. With just the section of video that I saw, they couldn't have done more things wrong. Let's see. So it starts out and it barely fit in the live well on the boat. Now, of course, to get it out of the live well, you got to lip it. But they suspended the entire weight of the fish by the jaw while doing it, instead of, getting it out and supporting it with a second hand and putting it into a weigh bag that was right there. They took it out of the live well, suspended by the jaw, standing on the boat, and then jumped off the boat, putting G-forces onto the jaw on a 16-pound fish. And if you've been watching me any amount of time, I don't really like handling fish much north of 9-10 pounds. You have to change your fish handling to support the jaw, because you could break it where it just won't function at all and the fish can't eat. Or, as everybody knows, sometimes a sprained ankle is worse than a broken ankle. And you can sprain a bass's jaw. And once you do that, that's it. The fish can't feed. The fish is cooked. He's going to it's probably going to starve to death. And that's, the last time I checked, that's not a very humane way to take anything off the planet, by letting it starve to death. So I guess the really concerning part for me about that is, after 30 years of helping, giving my time, not even asking for any pay, I've seen no progress in tournament bass fishing. I've seen I take that back. There has been some progress. I mean, at least they did have an aeration tank there to put the fish in. But watch the video. The fish is out of the water longer than it was allowed to revive in the oxygen tank. This is a super simple way to figure this out. Okay. Hold your breath. Just start while you're watching that video. Just hold your breath and see how long you can hold your breath for the amount of time that fish is out of the water. That's the same thing. What's happening, Dave? Welcome in, man. Talking about safe fish handling, in particular, the 16-pounder it's going around. It came through on Outdoor Life's page. And I don't know, I tried a different tactic, and I'm not really proud of it, but I think it might be necessary. I'm really just doing shaming language, and I was extremely rude to them. I was on the extreme side of everything, which really kind of goes against my personality. What's up, Mike? I don't like talking to people that way. It's really not in my personality to be confrontational. I would prefer civil, but in this particular scenario, I think it's just important. Um, I mean, a 16-pound bass is such a rare. I've never even touched a 16-pound bass. I've run a shotgun boat forever. Never even seen one. Never even touched one that big. And every single time I see guys holding a fish like that, but this one was the worst. This was just by a long way the worst. Um, it was mind-boggling, and then I knew it was coming, and I anticipated it. You know, I did it. I did all this intentionally because I've done this for so long. I've had the same conversations for 30 years about how bad the fish handling at tournaments is, and how detached from reality tournament bass fishermen are, and how misinformation and how they follow each other, and it's all fine because there's so many stupid people. It makes it okay. And I don't really care how many dumbasses there are in the world. It doesn't make it okay. It's not how this works. What's up, Dave? I'm talking about a video that I saw about a mishandling of a 16-pound fish and on Outdoor Life. And what's really funny, I'm getting reined in. Just you know, people calling me PETA, people calling me a nerd, telling me to, you know, get out of the classroom, thinking I'm a teacher, you know, just going onto my page, seeing somebody holding like a 2-pound bass by the lip and calling me a hypocrite. And I said repeatedly, you have not seen me lip a fish, suspend a fish by the jaw that's over 10 pounds. And you certainly have never seen me suspend a fish by a jaw and jump off a boat and expose that jaw to G forces. I've actually never seen anybody do something that dumb with the biggest fish that might be the biggest fish caught in America this year. You know, if there's ever a video on, that's what I wrote on the post. I said, how not to handle a trophy bass, a documentary, because literally everything in the video just makes me cringe. You know, it's just terrible. So I kind of lit into those guys and took a different approach. And it's all it's done is made me feel bad about myself. So I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to come at it that way anymore. I'm going to come at it with patience like I normally do. But I think what's frustrating is even with Google, with AI, literally in everybody's hand, they can't manage to use it and see. And I just keep saying it to them. Go take anything I say and run it through AI. That's, you know, that's, yeah, idiots, man. Absolute idiots. And I'm just calling them out as such. I can't, it's 30 years of this, man. And it's still the same stuff over and over and over again. So let's break that one down. And then I got a couple kids coming in here with some questions. Let's cover their questions. One young man asked me about being a biologist and how to do that. I want to break that down too. And there was another question in the comments last night. I should have brought my tablet in here. I don't like the YouTube comments because I can't go back and find them. I need to get better with YouTube. And there was another man that asked me a question. I said we cover it at night. Now it's just out of my head because I think about that video and I get triggered and I'm just, and I just, you know how it is when you lose focus, you know, when you let anger take over, and that's all that is an anger taking over. So like I said, let's just start at the beginning of the video when he's taking the fish. He's got a 16-pound bass by the lip. Of course, the only way to get that fish out of a live well is to lip it. That's fine. It's suspended in the water and its full weight isn't on its jaw while it's in the water. So as you're taking it out of the water, support the internal organs with your other hand as you lift it. Get that fish into the weigh bag, a wet weigh bag, not a dry one. Put some water in there. Get it in there as fast as you can with its internal organs supported down into the bag. Now, once it's in the bottom of the bag, again, that is supporting the organs, right? get it to the scale, get it weighed, and get it into the aeration in under 30 seconds if possible, and give yourself a minute. And you don't have to believe me. Again, AI it, or we did a podcast with the head biologist here in Florida at the FWC, Jason Dotson. He did a great talk about how he likes to see the Florida bass handled. And he said very plainly, 30 seconds out of the water and back. They don't, we don't want them out of the water longer than that. Hold your breath while the fish is out of the water. That would be a fair comparison. Just as long as you're holding the fish, as long as it's out of the water, you don't breathe, and see how long you can go. And then imagine yourself slightly stressed. Imagine yourself coming off a treadmill or cycling and having a workout, especially like right after you land the fish. Imagine getting off from a workout and holding your breath. How long can you hold your breath then? Right? Because that's exactly what that fish it's fighting for its life, basically. It thinks it is. We know we're keeping it alive, but the fish doesn't know that. So it's exerting all its energy, full capacity, and then it's removed from oxygen. Think about it that way. I don't know why that seems so counterintuitive to these guys, but that's what's happening. All right. So they didn't get it into the weigh bag that was on the boat or 10 feet away from the boat. Mistake number one. Well, actually not mistake number one, because we can go back. Let's just use basic fish handling for stocking ponds. I've got over 1 million miles that I've written off driving fish around, going from pond to pond, managing, shocking, and stocking. I think my opinion probably matters a little bit more than anybody who doesn't have 1 million miles doing that. I've killed fish once, and it's because the fish tank broke because of a dip in the road. It caused the tank to break, the water leaked out, the catfish died. That was the only time I've ever lost any fish on a haul. So when we go to the hatchery, I had a 250-gallon tank that went into the back of my truck. And that is the bed. That is basically the size of a short box Chevy, not quite as tall as the cab. I had about that much, and enough to get an oxygen bottle across the bottom, and have the gate up with the compressed oxygen bottle on a rack in a long bed, right? So if you think about a short box, that's about the size of 250 gallons of water. You don't haul more than 1 pound of fish per gallon of water as a general rule, because of their ability to take oxygen. Gills are very efficient at taking oxygen out of the water. And if you if you fill your tank with more than that rate, you literally have a situation where even with an aerator running, the fish are going to be oxygen stressed. Just from the natural needing oxygen, from them breathing and keeping them alive. So if you want your fish to live and you don't want them to be suffocating along their journey the entire time, you keep them under that rate. And then in the summertime, because again, this was a video from last month. So we're in one of the hottest months of the year. What's the temperature of the water in that live well? The warmer it gets, the lower the oxygen content gets in that water, just naturally. That's just how physics works. So how many gallons is that live well? What is the standard? You guys might know. I don't have a regular bass boat, glitter boat. I don't roll like that. What's the standard gallons? How many gallons is a live well? Just throw it in the chat. I have no idea. I'm going to say 20. That seems about like I had a 40 on my shock boat that I built myself. And a standard live well seems about half that size to me, 20, 25 gallons. Hey, hooking up. What's up, man? So again, I'm doing a visual. I don't know. I haven't looked at the specs on a bass boat. Somebody Google it or whatever, throw it up in there. How many gallons is a live well on a standard bass boat? 20. All right. You can hold 20 pounds of bass safely in there. You got 16 pounds in one fish. Do you have a limit of, did he have a limit of fish or did he just have that one? Because if he just had that one, it wasn't oxygen stressed. If not, if he's got 5 fish in there, all bumping around in a 20-gallon tank, and he's got more than 20 pounds of fish, they're basically suffocating in the tank all day long. And it's not like they're like a plastic bag over their head. They're getting some oxygen in, but they're oxygen stressed. And how long, what was it, oxygen stressed for an hour, for 30 minutes, for 8 hours? Was it caught in the morning? These are all things that I don't know about the video. But I can tell you by the way it came out, you know, and the way it was handled, there was nobody there who knew any of this information. All right, so he takes it out. He doesn't export internal organs. He suspends the fish by the jaw and then jumps off the boat, hops down off the boat, and parades the fish so everyone can see, you know, his glory, state record now, wherever it was, killing it live on the video, completely clueless. And right as he goes to put it in the weigh bag that he should have put it on the boat, then he wrenches the fish up. And not only is he has it suspended, but now he's putting additional pressure on the jaw to get it into the weigh bag. Now I'm counting. 47, 15, 20, 25, 30, 37 seconds, I think I got to. Coming from probably oxygen deprived to begin with. Now 37 seconds out of the water to get it to the scale. And then it's an edit on the video, so you don't even really know how long it's spent. I got 37 seconds, which is 7 seconds longer than Jason Dotson recommends you keep a big fish, or keeps any fish out of the water. And then they finally get it in, again, by the jaw, again, into the oxygen. And then they don't even let it stay in the oxygenated water longer than they had it out. It's in there for 25 seconds. And then it's back out of the water and he's cheesing it, And I will say this, at least he supported the internal organs on the grip and grin hold. And then the video ends, and I don't know what they did with it after that. I don't know how long they kept it out of the water after that. Don't even need to see it. It was everything you could do to kill a 16-pound bass in about a minute-long video. Mike's throwing up there 20 to 40 gallons. All right. So, there's your, if you're a tournament fisherman, figure out how many gallons your live well is, and don't put more than 1 pound of bass per gallon of water. And so when you have a 15, 16-pound bass, you've only got room for 4 pounds more fish before they're suffocating them. You're stressing them. And here's a lot of the comments come through. Well, I've never seen bass floating after a tournament. Yeah, right. Because you don't know jack crap about fish kills. 0% do you know about fish kills when you say something like that to me. We've been talking about it. How the fish are handled in high pressure ponds when these guys are pounding them. And then they're going, well, my fish seem to top out like 5-6 pounds. Yeah. Because you've handled them so many times, you've cut their life short. But you never saw them die. But yet you seem to grow fish fine to about 5 or 6 pounds, and then they vanish. Why? Explain it to me other than they're dead. I'll wait. Nobody, they'll usually pose a question with a question, and that's when they've lost the argument. So it's very frustrating to put this much work and and watch people do that, and then on top of it, have them argue with you about it. And I've just been telling them, you're embarrassing yourself in public. You literally have all the information in the palm of your hand. Google it. Google it on the AI. Go look it up. I'm not lying about any of these scientific facts. This is how we do it. When you do this for a living, you need to know all this stuff, or you're going to look like a fool. So no, you generally don't see mishandled bass dead floating. Occasionally you will. And it's unfortunate, because if the tournament, and again, Jason talked about it, there's scientific studies about this. I would be surprised that in the near future, you're not going to see tournaments shutting down in the summertime. They shut Orange Lake down. You don't trophy. There's no tournament. So, he said that on his thing. They're not letting people fish tournaments on Orange Lake. It's in its prime for producing trophy fish. And I'm with it. To hell with your tournament. Go catch some stunted dinks, take them home, kill them. I don't care. A lot of these lakes where they're killing them, the bass need to be killed anyway. And then I see guys going to that. Well, they need some death anyway. It's like, you guys are unbelievable. You hang your hat on being this conservation, catch and release. We free willy, save all the fish. And then when I say, hey, even on the best day, 40% of your fish are dying because of mishandling, because of bad, everything we just described. Oh, well, they need to die anyway. Well, put them in a cooler and take them home and eat them. You're not seeing them floating because of turtles, because of gators, because of predatory birds, because of a lot of things that eat fish. When fish get slow and lethargic, they get caught and consumed. And that's the problem. A small fish kill is never observed. One or two fish from mishandling, you never see them float dead unless they're gilled, unless they're bleeding. But a starvation death is a long, slow, painful death. No, you don't see that fish float. It gets lethargic. It gets captured by a turtle usually and gets consumed. Yeah, you don't see it die. What you do see, though, is what I've seen repeatedly for 30 years. You can't grow a fish over 6 pounds and can't figure out why. Meanwhile, you're dragging it through the dirt, holding out of water too long, breaking its freaking jaw, and then sitting back and calling me PETA. And I tell you what, I made a post about it. So there's a reason why I made that post. If it comes down to voting against fishing, you're going to lose. There's way more people who don't care about fishing than there are people who do. And your own videos are going to be used against you to get it banned because you're so stubborn. Not you guys, but them. They're so stubborn that they can't even listen to people who do it for a living. I don't know if that's ego. I don't know if that's stupidity. I don't know what that is. Because once they started talking this stuff to me, I've been in this position before. I was somebody who didn't understand this information for 20 years. And when I got to the University of Georgia, which has one of the best forestry schools on the planet, I did not argue with the scientists who dedicated their life to studying this stuff. And it just truly baffles me how you can. Yes, Michael, boat flipping should be automatic disqualification. These fishing tournaments need to be run like the golf. Golf is a game of honor, right? You basically have to officiate yourself. And if somebody catches you cheating, you get DQ'd, right? And in professional golf, there's plenty of people watching to keep them honest. But if you're an honest golfer, and that's why actually golf is a great game, because just go play golf with someone. If you have to hire someone, or do business with someone, you notice how businessmen always play golf. Do this. Go play golf and say to the person, it's like, I'm not very good at golf, or maybe you are good at golf. Doesn't matter what, but just say, I'm a purist. I'm old school. I like playing golf the way it should be played. Play it as it lies, as they say. play it right or don't play at all. And kind of make it known you're that way. And then tee off and watch. Does he foot wedge or does he play it as it lies? Does he bring you aware, hey, I'm on a sprinkler head, I'm going to move the ball off the sprinkler head? Or does he walk over and foot wedge it? It tells you everything you know about a guy, everything you need to know without ever asking a question. You can watch how guys play golf. And that's why they do it. That's why that businessmen play golf. That's why you'll get invited on the golf outings like that. So if you're on a golf outing like that, just know they're watching how you play, because it's directly related to how you think. Do you cheat or do you play it fair? Do you play it square the way the game's supposed to be played? You can learn. It's a great job interview. You can learn everything you need to know about a guy on a golf course and not even ask a question. Does he tap the 2-footer in or does he take it as a gimme? Tells me everything I need to know about a guy. Because if you think you can't push a 2-footer, yeah, okay. Same thing applies in fishing. I can tell you everything I need to know about a guy by how hard he works at learning this kind of stuff. So, boat flips. That should be automatic DQ from the tournament instantly. You just lost. You lost your fees. If we catch you doing it again, you lose your ability to fish in this tournament, just like they do golf. Watch how fast that stops. These are the rules of fish handling as dictated by the men who handle fish for a living. If you're caught mishandling fish, automatic DQ, just like golf. They could fix that crap tomorrow if they had their fishing tournament like a golf tournament. You get caught doing that, you're out of here, chief. Good luck. You're not making the money. Boom. Instantly, I could fix fishing. Just DQ them. Especially them. You know, they're on TV. They're filming their things on TV. Everybody's watching them. Post the rules. Let everybody know the fish handling rules. These are the rules to keep these fish alive. If you don't follow these rules, you're DQ'd. Go home. Instantly fixed. Tomorrow. And the thing about it is they dang well know it. All right, hooking up's got one. It's on a kayak. You lip the bass. Yep. 12 seconds. You know what I'm saying? Hell, 30 seconds. You know, you've got almost 3 times that amount of time, and the fish will be fine. And again, I'm not having a panic attack if you keep the fish out for 1 minute instead of 30 seconds. You know, a minute is plenty of time to, get the hook. And heck, if you got your net, I know you guys have seen me post about it. Just suspend them in the water. Just let them float in the water. Just keep the net up and put the fish back in the water. Let him catch his breath. Let him rest right there. He's not going anywhere. Not hurting anything. What you gotta do is just let him breathe. Get your board set up. Get ready. Let your adrenaline come down, because when you got a good fish, you get all jacked up, and that alone right there can inadvertently make somebody. I've done it myself plenty of times. Like, man, I got all excited and adrenaline on that 9-pounder, and I didn't handle it properly. That's okay. It happens. But my gosh, at least be aware, right? At least we're aware of our bias. That's it. Let's see, Arkansas, what's going on? It's just a fish people and catch and release our sacred bass people are actually the same people. Yep. It is. I agree 100%, Arkansas. Whichever way makes my incompetence, okay. And justification of incompetence. That's all that is. And it's pathetic. And it grinds my gears, because, like I said, I haven't protected this information in any way. I've done everything that I humanly possibly can. It drives me up the wall. It's really important to me, and it just feels like I'm spinning my tires. Just I don't know. I mean, I'm on Outdoor Life. It's on their channel. I was interviewed by Outdoor Life 2 months ago. I was in the magazine. I was on their podcast. So the people commenting on Outdoor Life's post don't even read Outdoor Life. Make it make sense, boys. Make it make sense. Hooking Up says, got a lot of friends. Yeah. I mean, why would you not treat any animal with respect? You know, for what reason? What excuse do you have not to understand the physiology of the animal that is in your care, whether it's your pet or the fish you catch or, you know, whatever? Why is that okay? It's not. It's not okay. It's I don't know. It's just proof that like no amount of truth matters when the tribe thinks one way. When you get a collection of people together that all say it's okay, then it's okay, apparently. And no amount of evidence, facts is going to break that tribalism ideology. They will argue until they're blue in the face. And again, I just don't get it, man. How could you look at my name, look at something that says aquatic biologist and go, hey, you know what? I've never even read one book about, any of that, but I'm just going to go argue with this guy. Really? Really? All right. So that being said, that's my rant about safe fish handling. We've got plenty of information about how to do this. You know, don't touch them with dry hands. You know, it's wet our hands. The slime coat's important. Suspend their internal organs. We talked about oxygen levels briefly. I'm not going to beat this with a stick because I've done it so many times. You guys have all heard it anyway. I'm going to move forward here. I'm trying to think of any other thing real quick. A bleeding gill, or if that jig gets them in the tongue and they're just pouring that blood, put them in a cooler. He ain't living. 90% chance of death. It happens. That's called hook mortality in scientific. You know, occasionally you get one in the gill. That's going to happen. Again, I'm not having a panic attack about fish mortality. Killing the fish is fine. Harvest is fine. Okay, I wouldn't even care if that guy said, I caught that 16-pound bass and I'm eating it. It's your fish. I'm fine with that. But don't make like there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I would have much rather seen that fish come off that scale and go right into the ice, into the cooler, because it's probably just turtle food anyway. Pond Stalker says, don't forget to kiss it. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. And you know what? I don't even really got a problem with that. Honestly, if you've wet your hands at least and done most of the handling properly, I'll let that one even slide, you know? But it's just like drag it up the bank through the dirt, you know, beat it with a stick. My God. And then call me stupid for pointing it out. I don't get it. I had a kid come through and ask a question about being a biologist. And let's touch on that. He's a high school kid. It is, how do I put this? I was an avid fisherman and I went to school and I didn't know what I wanted to major in. It was the whole, you know, go to college, better yourself, you know, thing that the society tells you to do. So I did. And I got there and I took classes. I really enjoyed it. I went to Valdosta and really enjoyed that there, and happened to see a biologist speak on coastal fishing. And I didn't know you could study fish in college. So as soon as I heard that, and I was always pretty good at science, I want to do that, So where can I go do that? Well, that was the University of Georgia. So I had to transfer from Valdosta to the university, both in the same public university system, just opposite ends of the state. So I did that, transferred up, got into school, got into the program. That was incredibly difficult. Then you had to have a 3.6 GPA to even be entertained to get into the forestry school. Got there. First class was pond management with Dr. Gilbert. Did that. Went a couple weeks to school and was, looking at the curriculum, looking at the everything that you had to take. I can vividly remember this. Called my mom and said, man, I think I might have messed up, because these guys are not playing about this school. This is serious. This is not like, there's jokes around Georgia. Like if you drive through Athens, just and stop at a red light, they'll throw a diploma in the window. That might have been true back in years ago. I don't know. That might, in maybe certain programs, might be easier to get a degree or whatever, but we were ranked number 2 in the country for forestry schools, and they did not play about it. I can remember, it was a mountain of a kid in there on the football team, and he was like, similar, like-minded. Man, this is awesome. He wanted to study wildlife, but to be a science major, every class you had a lab. So if you had 40 hours of credits, you literally spent 40 hours a week in school with the hour of class and the labs, the 2, 4-hour labs a week. Each class, and back then we were on quarters, not on semesters. But so you had 3 classes were considered a full load. Thank God. I don't think I could have got through semesters with 5 classes. So our full load was 3 classes, but that's 9 hours a week in class and another 8. That's 17 hours per class per week in school. So you went to school 40 hours a week, and they didn't play about the labs. The football player was like, hey, I've got practice. I really want to major in this, but I've got to go to football practice. And they told him plain, you got a choice, son. You can major in this or you can play football, but you ain't doing both. So there was no catering to athletes. There was none of that. They would gladly flunk you out of there. Beat it. They did not play about it. Advanced statistics classes. I think I don't even know how many statistics classes I had. Biometrics 1 and 2, basic statistics 1, 2, and 3. Or 1 and 2. There's 2 stat classes, 2 biometrics classes, quantitative decision methods. I mean, the list goes on and on. I just want to forewarn any students that you are not going to go in there. Fishing's not going to help you over there. All right. You don't learn by osmosis, right? And they're going to bring it. You are going to have zoology. You're going to have invertebrate zoology. All right. Until I had to go back and take classes to qualify. Like I had astronomy in Valdosta, and they said, you have to have chemistry. Have to have chemistry. This isn't an option. So I had to go back and take basic chemistry. And then they went on to some other, like organic chemistry. Oh, yeah. You want to talk about a real, good luck. And you can't pass organic chemistry without basic chemistry. So you got to go back and take chemistry. So I was going back and taking classes that I should have had to pre-qualify. If I would have started at Georgia, I would have had to have those classes. But because I transferred in, I was allowed to go back and fill those in and then advance further down the line. Um, all those classes, all those places that I went, that's all pre-med. Everybody in my class was pre-med and transferring to Augusta to be doctors. So if you want an idea of where you're going pre-med, and then you're going to forestry, and then you're going to, you can choose, trees, dendrology, silviculture, wildlife biology, fisheries biology was in there. We had a class called fish and wildlife biology where they put everything together, because managing a deer population and managing a fish population is very similar. Imagine if we stopped hunting. Imagine if hunting season was done with paintball guns instead of deer rifles. That's what catch and release has done to bass fishing. Same thing. You stop the harvest. The problem is, it's really obvious when a deer population gets diseased and starved and died. You can see it written all over them. I can't even explain to these guys, the fish you're holding is the evidence that the fishery is screwed, and you're calling it healthy, and I'm calling it not healthy on the same fish you're holding. The relative weight is 78. It's a head with a skeleton body, and you're calling it spawned out, and I'm calling it starved. You see the disconnect? And then again, because groupthink calls it spawned out, nobody pays any attention to me. For the life of me, I cannot remember the other question. That young man asked me a question about being a scientist, and I answered that. And somebody else answered a question on, I'll cover it tomorrow, or maybe the day after tomorrow. I might be busy tomorrow night. I really can't remember it. So we are only 42 minutes in today. All right. Maybe this will be cut short. Let me go back and look for any questions I might have missed. If you guys have anything you want to talk about real quick, throw it up. It was my rant on the idiots for the night. Sorry about that. Like I said, I'm using shaming language, shaming tactics. I returned the same amount of disrespect as I received. I was being a mirror, trying to draw parallels to how they're acting towards me, and that doesn't work. And that was a mistake that I won't make again. I don't regret doing it, but at the same time, it doesn't make you look good. And it shows poor character and being out of frame. That's what they are. But I just wanted to frame it in the shaming language that it should be in. Arkansas says he has aspirations of going back and getting a fisheries degree slowly. Well, Arkansas, that's a big part of why I do what I do, because I think all this information should just be common knowledge for anybody fishing, And as much as I love the university and think it's great, I have a big problem, especially with the cost of it these days. If you want to study fish, you have to be rich. And I don't like that, because I'm not rich. My dad was a truck driver, and he busted his tail to get me through that. I didn't take any loans. He cut that check, and I think about kids like me who would like to do that and can't, So as much as I love the school, I disagree with the rate of tuition. I disagree with burying somebody in that much debt to bring them into a job like mine, where you can't pay that loan back, especially in the environment that we're in, where nobody's going to listen to you anyway. So that's a That's going back. That's my FU back to that. Okay. How about this? How about I take your degree and I take life skills and I present it for free to everybody who wants to know it? How about that? That's exactly what I did. And I'm proud of that because I think these kids, if you want to study fish, you can get a fish degree if you just go back and read my Instagram or Facebook or follow through here. You know what I mean? And come through and ask questions. And if there's any questions that I can't answer, I could certainly get you to somebody with a PhD level that can. You know, those guys are so much smarter than me and so much more advanced than me. Dr. Salmons, you seen Black Bass Talk on here? You know, go follow Dr. Salmons. He was Auburn fisheries professor. Cool dude, man. I need to get him to come back through. Did an interview with him, and we need to do it again. You know, and I've said it yesterday, and I'll say it again. You know, anytime any of these guys, anybody, any way that my social media can help anybody like that, I'm fully willing. There's an army of us of really good, solid. Just everybody has a different experience. Everybody studied a little bit different things. You know, there's vast amounts of fish knowledge that is being wasted on this tournament mentality. Let's talk about what's popular instead of what's correct. Let's promote what's popular, whatever drives the algorithm, instead of this is what you need to hear. $10,000 per semester. So it took me, I'm trying to do the math. That's $20K a year. So that would have been $100,000. It took me 5 years to get through. Again, because when I transferred from Valdosta, I didn't have the core classes. So I had to go back and take some cores, and that put basically an extra year on me, 2 quarters. And I did some summer school too. So yeah, that degree is about 4 times more than it used to be in the mid 90s. So you're going to be $100,000 in bank debt. And that's not even going to graduate school, which I didn't even touch on that, because you don't go to work. I just got the 4-year and got out. I took all the fish classes they had, and I was already making money managing ponds. And they're like, you need to go to graduate school. And I'm like, nah, I'm done with school, man. I'm good. I'm out. See ya. I got a career. Thank you. That's how I did it. I did not go to graduate school. But I mean, everybody we sat on this side of the room. The graduate students were over there. They wrote a 20-page paper when we wrote a 10. I really didn't see the point, you know. I took all the fish classes. What else you got to teach me about fish? If I went to graduate school to get a degree in fisheries, I actually would have had to take deer and wildlife classes because I already had all the fish classes. You know, I didn't miss anything. You know, not only did I not miss anything, for 3 years, the first year I took pond management and with the shocking boat with Dr. Gilbert, I went to Dr. Gilbert and was like, man, this is awesome. Can I come and help the labs when you have the shocking boat? Because I knew what I wanted to do. I was already making money at it. And Dr. Gilbert let me come back and be an unofficial TA for the class. So I just volunteered my time whenever I could get over to the fisheries lab when they were running the shock boat. I was on the University of Georgia shock boat for 3 years when most of the other people just go, you know, for that one term, that one class, take it and get done with it. Oh man, anytime that shock boat left that university, I was with it if I could be. I was not very many times that thing moved that I didn't go with it. So I took advantage of the time that I had while I was there. And I also knew enough to know that the difference between book knowledge and field experience. And anybody who came down who said, hey man, we're doing this project, or I'm getting my PhD or whatever, and we need to pull seines, we need to run backpack shockers, we need to do any of that kind of work. Hey, I got you. I'm going. I'll go to work. So I got through my own, what's the term? Drive, I guess. I did as much field work, volunteer, and some of it turned into paying gigs too, which was cool. But I did as much field work as I could while at school as well. All right, hooking up, what you got? Do they teach it different up north or down south? How much different are northern and southern ponds? That's a good question, man. A little bit of difference. So you could be in a situation where you have more than one bass species. You could have smallmouth and largemouth. That would be significantly different right there. I've never managed a pond that could contain smallmouth. That's not a thing where I'm from. You could also have a situation where bass are not the top predator. And I see this disconnect a lot, where I'm talking about southern ponds and lakes that the bass are stunted out. And I get a guy from up north who says, well, yeah, arguing. And I'm like, but you got northern pike, right? Yeah. Well, you're not going to have a stunted bass pond. Do you think you're going to have a bunch of 9-inch bass around northern pike? I've been fishing up at north, watch northern pike bite the chrome on the prop of the boat. All right. Am I wrong? No, you're not going to have a bunch of dinker bass swimming around in a northern lake that's got pike and muskie and tiger muskie and another level of predator with teeth on top of that. Are basically like freshwater barracuda. No, you're probably not going to have too many stunted bass ponds up there. Flip side of that coin, the pike population or the muskie population will work exactly the same way as what I'm talking about. It's a predator population. So if you have fewer pike per acre, you'll have bigger pike. If you go out to a lake that you can just jack the pike all day long, they're going to be that long. And, you're not going to have big pike, but you'll have a ton of small ones. So these dynamics play out the same way as long as you know how to look at it. Absolutely, they're the brutal top end predator. Heck yeah. Freaking tiger muskies, those things are cool, man. I've never caught. I'd like to do some muskie fishing. That would be my jam if I lived up there, I think. That looks cool to me. You got that right, buddy. He says if they were a man size, you'd never get in the water. I don't know if I can get in the water with those big muskie. Didn't some lady get attacked by a pike on a video? Did I see that, or am I making that up? 20-inch pickerel. Wow. We got some big chains back there. Big chain pickerel back there. Now, and that brings up another point. Back there, the alligators are dinosaurs back there, so I'm not getting in that water just because of that. But you want to talk about a more serious problem than that back there. That place backs up to the St. Johns River, which backs up to the Atlantic Ocean, which means there's bull sharks in there. You want a serious problem? Get you some of that, my guy. 10 minutes away. It's got tiger muskie and pike. Man, I got to get up and get with you one of these days. That would be cool. That would be way cool. That's a crazy. They say you got to cast like 10,000 times, really work hard to get those. But when they talk like that, I think, okay, well, go catch a fish north of 8 pounds. You're in the same ballpark. You think you're just going to go jack 8-pounders, you're crazy. The only time I've ever just hammered 8 now I've caught a lot of 8-pound bass, but I manage lakes for 8-pound bass, 4 big fish. I've had ponds 10, 12 acres. I was talking to a guy today. He's got a strip mine in South Carolina, and he's got about 40 acres of water broken up, and he's wanting to know what he can do with it. That is one cool thing about doing this is all the cool places you get to go see and cool people you get to go meet and help out. That's been a very rewarding part of this job, is talking to folks who care, you know. And he sends me a text message after, man, I kept you on the phone for 40 minutes. I'm like, care, you know, this is what I love, man. Yeah, John, Muskie is on my bucket too, man. I need to make that happen one day before I leave Earth. Broke it off. Oh man, that does happen though. It'd be cool just to see that though, dude. Just that big. I don't know. I love that. I love predatory fish. I just love that stuff, man. I pull for the. I'm the kind of guy that pulls for the lion, not the gazelle. I don't know. It's fun. 8 foot, heavy, 80-pound braid, 300 reel. Science of the Strike. What's up? Here's some more guys we're going to get with and then have on. You guys want to come on and talk live and exchange out? I'm good, bro. What's the most overlooked fact of how it relates of bass and bluegill? Most overlooked fact. Okay, well, I'm going to frame it in my experience in the smaller lakes and pond. And let me think about that for a second. Is there any way I would? No, I'm pretty sure I'm going to stand on this. Okay, so let's just say like the guy calls me today and he's got ponds, right? And he wants some help consulting with those ponds. One of them was 9 acres, but it didn't look like a strip mine pond. It looked like a regular pond that was built, you know, by the government back in the day for erosion control. Most of the ponds in Georgia got there because the government built them for landowners for free to help control erosion. So when guys call me over my years working, and they're like, "Hey, I got this pond, and I want to do it. You know, I want it to be a banger," and I'm like, "Okay." The best way to do this, the least expensive way to get the best results that you want for a trophy bass pond, up to, I mean, I would say I've seen a few up to like 40, 50 acres, but very few. Bass, bluegill, you can put some red ear in there for parasite control, get the snails, and you can get the snails out of the ground and into fish tissue so bass can consume them. That's a good source of protein, but also reducing the shell crackers reduce the snail population, which reduces the parasites on your fish, which improves the health of your fish. So we want those ready, or just a light population, stock like 50 fish per acre. It's not going to cost you any money. Just have them in there. And a few grass carp to control the weeds. I don't have to put a bunch of chemicals around. That's it. I don't care if you stock threadfin shad. I don't care if you do any of the other tilapia nonsense or whatever additional stocking. I don't care. Nothing spawns better than a bluegill. Nothing puts weight on a bass better than a bluegill. And that's the reason why I did the example pond the way that I did. I told Clint, you know, do it my way or I'll quit. I'll do it for free just for the content. But I just want to show guys what can be done if you just keep it fundamentally sound and don't spend a bunch of money. Don't fall down the rabbit hole in the internet. And sorry, pond stalkers, you know, I'm stepping on you a little bit there, but you don't have to do any of that other unnecessary crap. Like people think, oh, this pond has tilapia. Well, okay, is that a coastal pond in southern Texas or out here in Florida or whatever, but you want to stock tilapia in North Georgia where they're illegal? That's not an option for you. But do you think that you can't find a pond stalker to bring you illegal tilapia in there? Yeah, you can. And I've seen plenty of people do it. And guess what they do? They throw these, they think they're going to throw all this diverse fish population in there and it's going to make it better. And they don't realize they're just diversifying the bluegill forage base. You're having increased the forage you've just diversified the forage base. And generally, when you diversify, like with golden shiner or anything that spawns once a year, as you're taking away, like this is your bluegill population, right? And then we stock another fish, which takes away. So now we have 2 species of forage in the pond, but only half the species of forage spawn monthly in the summer, in the warm part of the year. These guys spawn in the spring and then stop. So when it's like this, right, and this is all bluegill, we have a great spawning success and recruitment of forage fish throughout the growing season from summer to fall. When you do this and these fish don't spawn in the fall, you've just reduced your late summer forage pop because these fish don't spawn in the fall. So adding fish reduces the productivity. And I can't get it through dudes' heads. So I would say that's the biggest disconnect that I deal with. Keeping it simple is actually more productive than diversifying. And I proved it. I got fish growing over 2 pounds a year in a 2.5 acre pond. You know, I don't know what else I can do, but show it to you and say, you don't really have to go crazy stocking a bunch of fish and don't have to spend money every year. What you do have to do is understand the fundamentals. It's a good question, science. All right. Oh, yeah, man. Well, if you come through to Florida, I can get you. I got a good dude over in Crystal River. Dude, that dude catches some bull reds over there. Captain Socrates, he's actually on my Facebook page, or Instagram page. Great dude, man. And he put me on. I caught a 120-pound tarpon with him. Big snook with him. I'm about to make another trip over there, take him out for a day. Good kid, good guide. Yeah, absolutely, science. And big bull reds over there. But if you ever get out towards Louisiana or Mississippi, and you want to take a trip out, man, there's some big red drum over there too. Yep, that's right, John. That's where I was, man. Crystal River, Florida. There are some giants over there. Ah, that's your profile? Nice. Heck yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. Bluegill will play on bass. Absolutely. So let's talk about that. And that's a great, that's a great one, Arkansas. So let's say we've got our pond set up perfect and we've got a problem with, or let's just not even use crappie as an example. Let's just use, we've got our perfect setup, but you over harvest your bass population. Okay. Let's say it's a small pond. Let's say it's a 1 acre pond. It's pretty easy to over harvest it. You get somebody sneaking in, keeping all your bass out. It's easier to over harvest a smaller body of water than it is a larger body of water. There'll be a point in there where as you remove the bass down, right? Because we have 2 different species of fish, right? So our bass population, like if I use my hand like this is smaller, this is bigger, right? As the bass population decreases in size, the bluegill population increases in size. There's a point of no return there where once the bass are so low that they can't guard their nest against the bluegill predation. And the bluegill will nest raid as soon as the bass goes to run them off over there, because the pond is just so overly crowded with bluegill at that point. The bluegill will come in, the other bluegill will come in right behind and eat their eggs. And the bluegill can wipe out a bass population, right? Even with, if we stock it perfectly and it's fundamentally sound, any species of forage can do that, right? And guys just, I mean, again, it's just, I've said it a million times, but they just don't get it. And I guess I'll just have to say it a million more. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's why we call it a balanced situation, because you have to reintroduce some bass to get those bluegill numbers down so you can get successful bass recruitment in the springtime. And that's just science, man. That's just how it works. You grew up fishing in the St. Johns? That's a cool river over there, man. I like going over there. Oh, you're right by Crystal River. That's cool. Yeah, thanks, Science. Appreciate that, bro. All right. In my experience, all right, let's put this up so everybody can see what I'm talking about. Do mature largemouth show any preference in eating bluegill versus shad in ponds and lakes that have both? You know, now you're getting into like almost punching above my weight. But I can tell you what I have seen, right? So there's a one particular job comes to mind. There's a place in north of the city of Atlanta called the Atlanta Athletic Club. This big golf course. Bobby Jones played there, all that. And they were redoing a water hazard. It was a pond, obviously, but a water hazard. But this particular water hazard had a lot of big bass in it. And the greenskeeper hits me up and brings me in and interviews me for the job. And this is elite of the elite. It's like $100,000 a year just to be in the club, I think. Maybe more now. I don't know. It just people on an income level, not in my stratosphere, in the stratosphere, not on my level. So a lot of chiefs, not many Indians over there. And he told me, he's like, we got some good bass in here, and I'm just going to take him and put him in this other pond. And it's because of the Chiefs want it. Because I was up front with the guy. I was like, dude, just like we talked about yesterday, Shockboat doesn't do that. I'm going to get a sample of the fish. And that's it. This doesn't float all the fish up to where we're going to move all the bass. So we're going to do all this dog and pony show. And when you drain that pond, you're still going to have dead fish. He's like, don't care. Just got to make the effort. I said, cool. As long as you're aware of what's going to happen, I got no problems with that. But I'm not going to tell you one thing, take your money, and then, get a call down the road, oh, you didn't get all the fish out. So cool. Go over there. And he even forewarned me. He goes, just be ready. These guys they're going to tell you how to do your job. Like, oh, well, okay. And boy, was he not wrong. So I pull up fully expecting just not to do anything and to be making excuses. And, it's a sample, not just what I said. And so I put the boat in and I start rolling it around. It's about a 5-acre pond. And it's 5-pounder after 5-pounder after 5-pounder after 5-pounder. More 5-pound. I think I got 30 something fish. It was ridiculous, the amount. I had never at that point I was pretty young, and never in that point in my career had I seen so many like 4 to 6 pound bass come out of a 5-acre pond. But here's the but. It was in the floodplain of the Chattahoochee River. And at some point in time, it must have flooded up in there because there was gizzard shad in that pond. And that was the first time I had seen gizzard shad in a super small body of water. Usually just out here, 10,000 acres, or public water, rivers, whatever. The textbook will teach you don't ever put gizzard shad into a pond um, because they tend to get too big for most of the bass to eat and tie up biomass to where, if we have if we have the capability of holding 100 pounds of fish and 90 pounds of it shad, then we have 10 pounds of other game fish, and, that's what they teach you in the book. But when you get out into the field and you start electrofishing these places, you notice a pattern really quick that, wow, these ponds and small lakes that hold gizzard shad also have a really, really nice top end bass population. If the bass can get up to that size, the gizzard shad really seem to keep the weight and keep them big and keep them, at 100% relative weight. And you have some really big, but they got to be big. Once they get north of 5, the gizzard shad will really, really help, because it's, how to put it, I guess if you give the bass the ability to grow to that size, if they have forage availability, they will get there. Nature will find a way. And when gizzard shad grow 8 inches in a year, and they'll be 12 to 15 inches in a couple years, they're really, really big forage, and that translates. Now, again, I have seen them too, where you've got a stunted bass population and a gizzard shad population, and that's not a good combo because they can't eat that forage. So it's no different than what's going on here in Florida with the blue tilapia. You've got a bunch of 5-pound tilapia the bass can't eat, so you're seeing a drop in fishing compared to what it used to be before the tilapia were here. And everybody points the fingers at the FWC. Everybody points the fingers at the spray boat. Everybody points the fingers at everything but what I point the fingers at. You got competing species that can't be fed that are tying up biomass. That is the number one thing that I see in ponds when you're fishing tanks. It's not the spraying. It's not anything but competition and imbalance in the system, just like that. So people have heard me say this about gizzard shad and then instantly want to go buy gizzard shad. I'm not saying that, right? I'm not saying put gizzard shad in your pond. I'm just saying, all right, here's one way that I have used them before. Say I've got a situation where I've got bullhead catfish, some kind of weird sucker coming down the stream, crappie, green sunfish. I've got everything going against my fish population. I'll put gizzard shad in there for the exact same reason. I've got this problem and it's not very good forage. I could put gizzard shad in and displace the bad stuff for a better, slightly better, but I know the gizzard shad are at least going to displace the other trash fish out of the lake. And then I can go in and add some adult bass and bump it up. And then I usually end up using gill nets and electrofishing to try to keep the gizzard shad under control. Actually, if you're good with rotenone, you can rotenone the gizzard shad and not kill any other fish. They're more susceptible to rotenone at low dose than all the other fish in the pond. So you can have a partial shad kill with rotenone if you know what you're doing. And balance it back that way. But again, there's so few people and so few jobs that I've had this experience with that, I'm limited on my experience, but I do know how to do it. So, take that for what it's worth. If you have big shad, now threadies are a different, if we're going to get into species, threadfin shad only get like this, they're really more ideal. And I see they're expensive, $1,500, $2,000 a load. You can get 10,000 shad in a load, which will be about 35 pounds of fish. The numbers of you'll get about 35 pounds, whether they're this big or this big, But so if you get smaller fish, you end up with more. Bigger fish end up with fewer. The idea is just stocking thread fins in at a high enough rate, because they're real good at popping off and spawning within a couple of days of being stocked. So I can use them kind of the same way that I just described the gizzard shad, where I'm using them to displace other fish. I'll usually do this gizzard and the threadfin in that manner to try to give me more variety of sizes in that forage and displace those other trash fish out with a better forage. I could definitely use Arkansas pond stalkers for that. You know, if I'm using that situation, I can't drain the lake and start it over again, and I've got to play these games, setting fish traps, pulling gill nets, running shock surveys for much longer than needed just to harvest fish. But all these things cost additional money that never stops. I never stop the long electrofishing survey I got to charge you twice for. I never stop the extra days of work to pull the nets and to do that work. So if you look at it over a 10-year period, the drain and restock that started and over is taking away all that labor over a decade. I don't have to come back. And if I was a dishonest person, I'd just keep, stealing the money, basically. I'm not stealing, but, consulting to make money instead of consulting to do the right thing. It doesn't even really matter, because when you tell somebody to drain the pond and stock it and over again, they never listen anyway, and you end up doing the expensive way anyhow. That's how that works. He said he used to see yellow perch as the main forage, slender body compared to the gills. Yellow perch will fall into that kind of crappy, competing with bass, feeding bass, yes, but also competing with bass. Like a 6-inch yellow perch and a 6-inch bass are feeding on the same things. So that's competition. If the yellow perch wasn't there, whatever that yellow perch is eating would be extra forage for the bass, you see, just like a crappie or a green sunfish. So I wouldn't stock yellow perch into a small pond for the same reason I wouldn't stock a crappie or a green sunfish. Oh, sure, science, no problem, man. Oh, Arkansas, man. You didn't know you could selectively harvest red. Yeah, that's some old school tricks right there, my guy. Old school fish hatchery tricks right there. You got to know the right guys teach that. I didn't learn that at University of Georgia. No, you know what, though? Actually, I take that back. Ronnie Gilbert did know about that. The first time I heard about that was from Dr. Gilbert. The first time I did that was not at school, though. And they never listen. All right, 1 hour and 17. Good one again tonight, boys. Appreciate you guys coming through and helping with the engagement and the questions and making this thing halfway interesting, so I don't have to just sit here and yak to myself. And we'll get Science of the Strike on here, and we'll get some other biologists on here. We'll get Preston back on here. We'll get Garrett back on here. Talk about what they got going. And anybody else who wants to come through and talk fish with us and share some experience so everybody can learn. Appreciate it. And I'm going to end it right now. Talk to you guys later.